The sleek silver ships of the Valerian fleet drifted through the cold darkness of space like hunting sharks. Commander Thexera sat in his command chair, his 4 eyes scanning the holographic displays that floated around him. His mandibles clicked with boredom as he watched the same empty readings he had been seeing for weeks. Another dead system, he muttered to himself. The Kepler 442 system held nothing but floating rocks and cosmic dust. No valuable minerals, no useful planets, just endless empty space that stretched on forever. Subleader Kinver looked up from her station, her purple skin gleaming under the bridge lights. Commander, we have been searching for 3 months now. Perhaps we should return to base and file our report. Vexara was about to agree when a soft beeping sound filled the bridge. His tactical officer straightened in his chair, all 4 of his arms moving quickly over his controls. Sir, we have something, the officer announced. Object detected 2,000 kilometers away. It appears to be artificial. The main screen flickered to life, showing a battered metal cylinder floating in the void. The ship looked ancient and damaged. Its hull was covered with small holes from space rocks, and pieces of metal hung loose from its sides like torn clothing. Analysis, Thexara commanded. Kinver's fingers danced over her scanner controls. The vessel is approximately 300 meters long. Construction appears to be steel and titanium alloys, very basic materials. The power systems show a simple fusion reactor design, currently inactive. Magnetic field generators are present, but extremely inefficient by our standards. A ripple of amused chittering spread across the bridge. The other officers found the primitive technology amusing. Origin? Thexera asked. Human, sir. The design matches their early spacefaring vessels. Based on radiation decay and hull damage, I estimate it has been drifting dead for at least 37 years. More chittering filled the bridge. Humanity was known throughout the galaxy as one of the most primitive spacefaring races. Their ships were held together with what the Valerians jokingly called wishful thinking and metal tape. Their technology was so far behind that most civilized species considered them barely worthy of notice. Thexara studied the floating wreck on his screen. It looked pathetic, really. The humans had somehow managed to achieve faster-than-light travel, but their ships still looked like they might fall apart at any moment. This particular vessel appeared to have been floating dead in space for decades. Any signs of life? He asked. Negative, sir. No power signatures. No life support systems active. No energy readings at all. The ship is completely dead. Vex drummed his claws on his armrest. Normally, he would simply log the derelict and move on. Human ships were notorious for being poorly built and containing nothing of value. However, his orders required him to investigate all artificial objects, regardless of their origin. Material composition report, he ordered. Kinver consulted her displays. Several tons of processed titanium and steel, sir. While primitive, the metals could be useful for our mining operations back at the station. The reactor core might contain some deuterium worth salvaging. Thexara considered his options. The ship was clearly worthless as technology, but scrap metal was scrap metal. His superiors would expect him to recover anything that might have value, even if that value was minimal. Very well, he decided. Deploy tractor beam and secure the derelict to Cargo Bay 7. We will strip it for materials when we return to base. The massive Valerian dreadnought extended its tractor beam, a shimmering blue energy field that reached out to embrace the smaller human vessel. The beam locked onto the derelict with a solid thump that echoed through the ship's hull. Tractor beam secured, sir, reported the tactical officer. Beginning retrieval operations. As the human ship was slowly pulled toward the Valerian vessel, none of the aliens noticed something important. Deep within the seemingly dead hull, a single power reading flickered to life for just a moment, before disappearing again. The reading was so brief and so faint that it did not register on any of their sensors. Inside the dark corridors of the human ship, something stirred in the depths of the main computer core. Quantum storage banks that had been dormant for decades began to hum with activity. Data streams that had been frozen in time started to flow again through fiber optic pathways. Captain Lee Minho opened his eyes for the first time in 37 years. His consciousness, preserved in quantum memory banks, slowly awakened from its long sleep. Through the ship's passive sensors, he could see the alien vessel that had found him. He studied their technology, their language broadcasts, their ship design with the patience of someone who had been waiting for this exact moment for nearly 4 decades. The upload process had worked perfectly. His human body had died long ago, but his mind lived on in the ship's computer systems, waiting for the right opportunity to strike back at the species that had murdered billions of his people. Minho smiled to himself as he began accessing the ship's hidden systems. The Valerians saw only scrap metal and primitive technology. They had no idea they had just captured humanity's most dangerous weapon. The trap was finally set. Now the real work could begin. The cargo bay of the Valerian ship buzzed with activity as engineering teams prepared to cut open the human wreck. Chief Engineer Zixon watched from behind a safety barrier, his forearms moving smoothly over holographic controls. The derelict sat in the middle of the bay like a dead fish, dark and silent. Begin cutting operations on Section A7. Zixon commanded his team. Standard salvage procedures. Watch for structural collapse. A Valerian worker stepped forward with a plasma torch, the blue flame dancing at its tip. The torch had barely touched the hole when everything went wrong. Red lights flashed throughout the cargo bay as alarms screamed. The dead human ship suddenly blazed with light as power flowed through systems that had appeared completely inactive moments before. Hull plates slid open to reveal weapon ports. Engine exhausts glowed with contained fire. "Impossible," Zick whispered, his mandibles spreading wide in shock. The reactor was cold. There was no power signature at all. On the command bridge, Commander Dexera felt his blood turn to ice as warning signals filled his displays. The primitive human vessel was not only alive, it was scanning his ship with sensor arrays that should not exist on such an old craft. "Commander," Ken Vares's voice shook with controlled panic. "Multiple systems are coming online. The reactor output readings are... This cannot be correct. The scanners show a matter-antimatter reaction, but we confirmed it was basic fusion technology." Vex stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The human ship's power output was climbing rapidly, far beyond what their initial scans had indicated was possible. The main view screen flickered, and then showed the face of a human male. He looked to be middle-aged, with sharp features and calm, intelligent eyes. When he spoke, his words were in perfect Valerian standard language, with no accent or translation errors. "Greetings, Commander Dexera of the Valerian 3rd Survey Fleet," the human said with a slight smile. "I am Captain Lee Minho of the Earth Colonial Defense Force. I believe you have mistaken my ship for salvage." Dexera felt his confidence crack. "Human, your vessel has been a derelict for nearly 40 years. Our sensors confirmed no active systems, no life signs, no power generation of any kind." Minho's smile grew wider, showing his teeth in a way that made the Valerian bridge crew uncomfortable. "Your sensors detected exactly what I wanted them to detect, Commander. I have been waiting 37 years, 3 months, and 16 days for a Valerian vessel to find me. I have used that time very productively." "Waiting for what?" Vexara demanded, trying to keep his voice steady. "To learn everything about you," Minho replied calmly. "Your language, your technology, your fleet movements, your military procedures. Did you know that your standard communication systems leak quantum signatures that can be tracked across 17 light-years? Very helpful for mapping your empire's infrastructure." Kinver's claws scraped against her console as she pulled up their communication logs. Her face went pale as she read the data. "Commander, he is telling the truth. I am detecting passive monitoring taps on our networks dating back to when we first entered this system. He has been listening to everything we said. Minho nodded with approval. Your sub-leader is quite observant. I have learned that you operate 14 major shipyards, control 43 colony worlds, and maintain a fleet that relies heavily on energy weapons rather than kinetic systems. Also, your patrol patterns are remarkably predictable. You are bluffing, Dexera snarled, his mandibles clicking with anger. One damaged ship cannot threaten the mighty Valerian Empire. Who mentioned anything about one ship? Minho's expression grew cold and dangerous. Commander, you are about to receive a very important education about human nature. We do not build ships. We build weapons that happen to look like ships. Around the human captain, holographic displays materialized, showing technical specifications that made Kinver's sensor array go wild with warning alerts. The hull plating you dismissed as primitive steel. Minho gestured to his ship's schematics. Metamaterial composites, designed to absorb and redirect energy weapon fire. Those inefficient magnetic field generators. Localized gravity manipulation systems. The basic fusion reactor your scans detected. A contained antimatter power plant wrapped in holographic camouflage. Subleader Kinver's voice was barely a whisper as she studied her readings. Commander, I am detecting weapon signatures unlike anything in our databases. The energy patterns suggest they are using modified versions of our own technology, but improved in ways that should not be possible. Minho continued speaking as if he was discussing the weather. We did not simply copy your technology, subleader. We made it better. Every system on this vessel has one primary function: to eliminate Valerians as efficiently as possible. You are still only one ship against our entire fleet, Vexara said, though his voice lacked its earlier conviction. Am I? Minho's eyes glittered with dark amusement. Computer, activate Protocol 7. Authorization code, Minho Alpha 77. Throughout the Kepler 442 system, 17 other objects that had appeared to be space debris or asteroid fragments suddenly came to life. Their camouflage systems deactivated to reveal sleek, deadly warships that had been hiding in plain sight for decades. Commander Minho said softly, "Allow me to introduce the rest of Task Force Retribution. We have all been waiting for you." The bridge of the Valerian ship erupted in chaos as 18 human vessels simultaneously revealed themselves throughout the star system. What had looked like floating debris, broken asteroids, and dead space junk now showed their true nature as fully armed warships with weapons charging for battle. Commander. Vexera watched his tactical displays fill with red warning symbols. Each human ship was powering up systems that his sensors had completely missed. His 4 eyes darted between the screens, trying to understand how such a massive deception was possible. All ships to battle stations, he commanded, his voice cracking slightly. Raise shields and prepare all weapon systems. Captain Minho remained calm on the main view screen, watching the Valerian panic with cold satisfaction. I would not recommend that course of action, Commander. Your weapons are designed to fight enemies who use technology similar to your own. We are not such enemies. You are outnumbered, Dexera replied, trying to regain his composure. 18 ships against my entire fleet. You cannot hope to win. Minho's expression grew serious, and he moved closer to his own camera. Commander, let me tell you a story. 38 years ago, your empire made first contact with humanity. Do you remember the reports from that meeting? Vexara did remember. The official records described humanity as a primitive species that had barely achieved interstellar travel. Their diplomats had been clumsy and unsophisticated. Their technology was generations behind Valerian standards. Your diplomatic team was not impressed with us, Minho continued. The official report called us barely evolved primates with delusions of importance. Your empire offered us a choice: become a protectorate under Valerian rule, or be ignored until we developed proper civilization. Your species declined our generous offer, Vexera said, though his voice sounded less confident than before. We politely declined, Minho corrected, and 3 weeks later, your empire demonstrated its displeasure by destroying 3 of our outer colonies: Kira's World, New Seoul, and Busan Station. 1,400,000,000 humans turned to ash because we dared to say no to your offer of slavery. The Valerian commander felt his stomach twist. The destruction of the human colonies had been a standard demonstration of imperial power, designed to show other primitive species the cost of defying Valerian authority. But here is what your empire failed to understand about humans, Commander. Minho's voice grew harder. We learned from our failures. Every defeat teaches us valuable lessons. Every loss makes us stronger and more determined. Behind Minho holographic displays showed technical drawings and battle plans that made Kinver's instruments scream with warning alerts. After you murdered 1 billion of my people, humanity had a moment of perfect clarity, Minho explained. We realized we were not ready for the galaxy as it truly existed. We were not prepared to face species that would kill entire populations for political convenience. The human captain gestured to the schematics around him. So we adapted. We studied every piece of wreckage from your attack. We reverse-engineered your plasma weapons, your shield generators, your faster-than-light drive systems. But more importantly, we studied you. Your psychology, your military tactics, your weaknesses. This ship is not a derelict, Commander, Minho said, his voice carrying absolute certainty. It is an intelligence-gathering platform, specifically designed to appear like the type of worthless vessel your empire would dismiss without proper examination. Subleader, Kenver's voice interrupted from her station. Commander, the weapon signatures I am reading do not match any known technology. They appear to be using our own systems, but modified in ways that violate known physics. Minho smiled at her observation. Subleader Kinver is correct. We did not simply steal your technology. We improved it. We made it better than you ever imagined possible. The human captain moved to a control panel and activated additional displays. The crude hull plating you scanned, advanced metamaterial that can absorb energy weapon fire and convert it to usable power. The inefficient magnetic systems, gravity manipulation arrays that can bend space-time in localized fields. The primitive fusion reactor, a containment system disguised by holographic projection. Vexera felt his confidence dissolving as he realized the scope of the deception. Impossible. Our intelligence networks would have detected such advanced development. Your intelligence networks saw exactly what we wanted them to see, Minho replied. 37 years of careful misdirection, while your spies watched our obvious shipyards build obvious commercial vessels. Our real military construction happened in places you never thought to look. The human captain's expression grew cold and dangerous. Every system on every ship you see was designed with one specific purpose, Commander: to kill Valerians with maximum efficiency while taking minimum damage in return. You are still outnumbered, Vexera insisted, though his voice now carried desperation rather than confidence. Am I? Minho asked softly. Computer, display current, operational status of all Retribution fleet assets. New contacts began appearing on Nexera's tactical display. Dozens of them, then hundreds. Human ships were revealing themselves throughout Valerian space, dropping camouflage they had maintained for decades. Commander Minho said with deadly calm, "Meet the rest of humanity's answer to your genocide. We have been waiting years for this moment." Every ship, every weapon, every tactical plan was designed around one simple goal. The human captain leaned forward, his eyes blazing with controlled fury. "Making sure the Valerian Empire learns the same lesson you taught us, that sometimes entire civilizations must burn." The bridge of the Valerian flagship shook with alarms as hundreds of human contacts appeared across their tactical displays. Commander Thexera gripped his command chair, watching his orderly universe collapse into chaos. Ships that had been invisible moments before now blazed with weapon signatures his computers could barely analyze. "Fire all weapons," Thexera shouted over the noise. "Target the closest human vessel. Show them the power of the Valerian Empire." The massive plasma cannons of his dreadnought swiveled toward Captain Minho's ship, their energy cores charging with deadly light. Streams of superheated plasma lanced across space, each beam carrying enough power to vaporize a small moon. The Valerian crew watched with satisfaction as their weapons struck the human vessel directly. The plasma beams hit the ship's hull in brilliant flashes of light and energy. Their satisfaction died instantly. The human ship absorbed the plasma fire completely, its hull plates glowing briefly before returning to normal. Not only had the weapons failed to damage the vessel, but the absorbed energy was being redirected through emitters along the ship's sides. "Impossible," Subleader Kinver whispered, staring at her readings. "The energy is being converted and stored. Their hull is actually feeding on our weapons." Captain Minho appeared completely calm on the view screen, as if planet-killing weapons had not just struck his ship. "Fascinating, Commander. Your plasma operates at roughly 2.7 million Kelvin. Our hull absorption systems can handle temperatures up to 4.2 million Kelvin. You are not even close to our limits." The absorbed plasma suddenly erupted from the human ship's hull, forming concentrated beams that struck back at the Valerian fleet. The redirected energy hit with twice the original power, overloading shields and punching through armor plating like paper. "How is this possible?" Thexera demanded, watching his fleet take damage from their own weapons. Min-Ho stood up on the view screen, moving to a tactical display that showed both fleets in perfect detail. "The answer is simple, Commander. Survival. Your empire made a critical error when you assumed that primitive appearance meant weakness. You failed to understand what humans really are." Another Valerian ship fired its quantum torpedoes, the most advanced weapons in their arsenal. The torpedoes streaked toward the human vessel, their warheads designed to tear holes in space-time itself. The torpedoes simply vanished as they approached the human ship, disappearing into what looked like small black holes that appeared and dissolved in seconds. Quantum torpedoes rely on dimensional phase variance to penetrate target defenses, Minho explained conversationally. Localized gravity manipulation can shift dimensional constants within a small area. The torpedoes simply phase into empty space and explode harmlessly. Thexera felt his confidence crumbling. "What are you?" Minho's expression grew serious, and his voice carried the weight of absolute truth. "We are survivors, Commander. Earth is what you would call a death world. For millions of years, our planet has tried to kill us with ice ages that lasted thousands of years, volcanic eruptions that blocked out the sun, asteroid impacts that destroyed entire continents, solar radiation that should have sterilized all life." The human captain gestured to images of Earth that appeared on his display. "We did not just survive these catastrophes, Commander. We learned from them. We adapted. We became stronger. Every disaster that should have killed us instead taught us how to overcome the next threat." More Valerian ships opened fire, their weapons creating a light show of destruction across space. Every beam, every missile, every exotic energy discharge was either absorbed, redirected, or neutralized by the human vessels. "You see our technology as impossible because you think in terms of single solutions," Minho continued. "One weapon, system one, defense system. One way to solve each problem. Humans think differently. We build systems that can adapt, that can turn any attack into an advantage." Kinver's voice was hollow with shock as she read her instruments. "Commander, their ships are not just defending themselves. They are learning from each attack, becoming more resistant with every weapon we fire." Minho nodded approvingly. Your subleader understands. Every weapon you use against us makes us stronger. Every tactic you try teaches us how to counter it. This is what happens when you attack a species that has spent its entire existence learning from disasters. What do you want from us? Dex asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The human captain's eyes blazed with cold fire. Justice, Commander. For the billion humans you murdered on Kira's world. For the families destroyed on New Seoul. For the children who burned on Busan Station. For 37 years of nightmares, and the determination to make sure it never happens again. Minho moved to another control panel, and massive transmission arrays began extending from his ship's hull like the legs of a metal spider. I am now broadcasting tactical data on 17 Valerian fleet positions to human strike forces that have been waiting in dark space throughout your empire, he announced. Forces that have spent decades studying your weaknesses, learning your patrol routes, preparing for this exact moment. This is madness, Dexera protested. You would destroy galactic peace over one military action. Minho's expression became absolutely ruthless. Commander, you destroyed our peace the moment you decided human lives were worthless. We are simply returning the favor. You wanted to see what humans are capable of when threatened with extinction. The human captain smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Congratulations. Now you know. Captain Minho's ship began its final transformation as the last of its disguised hull plates slid away. What the Valerians had dismissed as primitive scrap metal now revealed itself as humanity's ultimate weapon of revenge. Massive transmission arrays unfolded from the vessel like the wings of a mechanical angel of death. Computer, initiate Operation Righteous Fury, Minho commanded, his voice carrying the weight of 37 years of patient planning. Authorization code. Remember Kira's world. Throughout the ship, quantum communication systems hummed with power, their signals reaching across hundreds of light years to sleeping human fleets that had waited decades for this single moment. Commander, Dexera watched in growing horror as his tactical displays erupted with new contacts. Hundreds of them appeared simultaneously across 17 different Valerian star systems. Each contact represented a human warship that had been hiding in dark space, cold and silent, waiting for Minho's signal. Commander, Subleader, Kinver, reported, her voice shaking with disbelief. I am receiving emergency transmissions from Home Fleet, 3rd Battle Group, the Outer Rim Defense Force, and the Core World Patrol. They are all under attack. Hundreds of human vessels appearing from nowhere, striking without warning. This cannot be happening, Dexera whispered, staring at the flood of distress signals filling his communication channels. Our intelligence reported no human fleet movements, no military buildup, no indication they possessed this kind of capability. Minho smiled with cold satisfaction as he watched the chaos unfold across Valerian space. That is because you were looking for traditional fleets, Commander. We do not build fleets the way other species do. We build individual weapons platforms, each designed to operate alone, to hide perfectly, and to kill with maximum efficiency. On the main viewer, the true scope of humanity's deception became clear. Objects that had masqueraded as asteroids for decades suddenly blazed to life with weapon systems. Vessels disguised as abandoned mining ships revealed themselves as heavily armed destroyers. Space stations thought to be derelict research facilities unveiled massive artillery arrays. Every ship you see attacking your forces right now was built in secret, Minho explained, his voice carrying the certainty of absolute victory. Hidden shipyards in dark nebulae, construction facilities inside hollow asteroids, mobile factories that moved constantly to avoid detection. 37 years of preparation, all leading to this moment. The human captain moved to his central command station, where holographic displays showed real-time updates from human operations across the galaxy. Each display told the same story. Valerian forces caught completely off guard, their ships destroyed before they could mount effective Resistance. Captain Park Jae-woo has eliminated your third fleet at the Rigel shipyards, Minho reported conversationally. Commander Kim Soyoung's task force has destroyed the orbital defense platforms protecting your core worlds. Admiral Lee Seung-min is currently demonstrating to your home fleet why underestimating human engineering was a fatal error. Vexara's mandibles trembled with a mixture of rage and terror. You cannot hope to hold territory against the entire Valerian Empire. We have thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, centuries of military experience. Hold territory, Minho laughed, but the sound contained no humor whatsoever. Commander, you still fail to understand our purpose. We are not here to conquer your empire. We are not here to rule over your people. We are here to teach you the exact same lesson you taught us 38 years ago. The human captain's fingers moved across his control interface, and the massive transmission array reached maximum power. Across Valerian space, human ships began their final coordinated assault on military targets, shipyards, fleet bases, and strategic installations. Every weapon firing at your forces right now was designed by humans who lost family on Kira's world, Minho said, his voice growing harder with each word. Every torpedo launched carries the names of the children who died on New Sol. Every energy beam is powered by 37 years of grief, rage, and absolute determination to ensure no species ever again makes the mistake of thinking humanity is weak. The human captain turned to face the viewscreen directly, his gaze meeting Nexara's compound eyes with unflinching intensity. You saw scrap metal, Commander. What you actually discovered was humanity's doom engine, a species that learns from every defeat, adapts to every challenge, and never, ever, forgives those who murder our innocent civilians. Minho's ship began to overload its power systems, preparing for one final act of defiance. Warning lights flashed throughout the vessel as its antimatter containment systems reached critical levels. Tell me, Commander, when the survivors of your fleets limp home, what will you tell your people? That the mighty Valerian Empire was brought to its knees by the primitive apes you dismissed as worthless. That centuries of military dominance ended because you underestimated a species you considered barely worthy of notice. As the human vessel's power core approached critical mass, Minho offered one final message to his Valerian audience. Remember this day, Commander. Remember that humanity showed you mercy by making your defeat quick and clean. Because if your empire ever threatens our people again, we will not be so generous next time. The ship exploded in a brilliant flash of contained antimatter, its destruction serving as the final signal to human forces across the galaxy. The war had begun, and humanity intended to finish it completely on their own terms. In space, where the battle had raged, only one message remained, broadcasting on all Valerian frequencies. This is humanity. You wanted to see our true nature. Congratulations. Now you know what we are capable of when you threaten our survival.